Let us start the session. Good afternoon, participants. I welcome you to the evening session of this FDP for today. For this session, we have Mr. Gingade Sudhakar sir along with us. He is team leader polymer uh, for US India branch. He has done his bachelor's in mechanical engineering and started the journey with CAD/CAM as lead designer for about 8 years. And due to his fascination towards rapid prototyping, which was then called as known as additive manufacturing, he joined in as service engineer and continued to explore more on the polymer applications to produce the functional parts. And he is continuing to do so till date. With an experience of more than 15 years in additive manufacturing, he is a part of Additive Minds team, which works on customized projects based on the industry needs. He is also a certified EOS trainer for metal and polymer systems. Currently, he leads the polymer segment in India and supports the APSC region too. He has provided active participation during COVID-19 for developing swap design and manufacturing process. So, on behalf of Department of Production Engineering, VSSUT Burla, Odisha, and the participants of this faculty development program, I welcome you, Sudhakar sir, to this FDP and to this particular session. And I request you to start the session.
Thanks for the nice introduction. Let me just share my screen so that it should be. So everyone able to see my screen? The presentation mode?
Yes, sir, it is perfectly sir.
Okay. Thanks, Professor, and also thanks for the AICTE to have this program. Actually, I did a similar kind of a program at Anna University also in Chennai on another topic. And also it is good that all the the colleges and all the professors are also knowing the latest technology which is being used by the industry, so that they can also bring in the students to that level and also give them that information what is the industries are using, so that they can be prepared when they are going in, when they are being recruited campus directly or maybe after their exams. So it is good one way that I appreciate AICT and also the colleges, and thanks for the opportunity to be in a part of this team and to present about the technology also from my side, from your side. Thanks. So by then I can, you're able to see my screen, which is in a full screen mode or on a presentation mode.
It is in presentation mode, not in full screen.
This is the slideshow mode which I'm talking about.
Yes, yes. The slides are.
Now
it is full screen now.
Okay, fine. Because I just wanted to check, because how it is from the other side, I'm not able to. Okay, so let us get into the session fast. So these are the topics today that we will be covering, like a few slides on what EOS is doing, and then we will get into the part selection and what is the criteria that you need to have, and how this criteria is drilled down so that it is further enhancing the art stream. And then we see maybe a one matrix, which is called as a Nicotech matrix. And then we'll have a case study. If time permits, maybe we can go further on that, or maybe we can go in for a Q&A session. Just a slide on EOS India. It was started in 1998 in India, but as such, EOS started in 1989, which is about 10 years prior to Indian office. So Anand had started this company in India, and I joined him as a technical side. So it's been more than 20 years in this field for on the additive manufacturing side. So we have been done a lot of journey along as the technology has grown. So with this experience, we also have 80 customers in India. With we both have metal and polymer systems. So this is the share of the market in India. So here I highlighted the end-to-end solution is something like EOS doesn't just like that just sell systems. We actually, because as you know that in India itself we are about 20 years, and as a whole we are 30 plus years around this technology. So what happens is like we have an extensive knowledge on this technology. So wherever we have, say for example, part screening is one among that. Like for example, in medical, you need to have a certification. In aerospace, you need certification. So those areas are also we are covering. So for example, if you are developing something, we can also support you and develop along with you and then bring that product to the market. So it's kind of a end-to-end solution right from the design phase till the product comes out. We can help you, we can handhold you in certain areas, we can support you in the design as well as the parts and also on the final area. So just to give you a small video about the 3D printing, it's a small thing. I don't know whether you've seen these systems videos earlier. So it is done as a layer by layer method. I know that I think there are few sessions maybe from now. Earlier sessions you must have had about what is 3D printing and how it's been done. So I don't want to take you into those areas, just to show you how this works. So it is something like designs which is not being possible for your conventional methods can be done with this. So the design freedom is so high that whatever you finally have in your mind and you design it, and then you can just print it and then get the model, 3D model intact. So there is no design constraints for the designers. So the designer can have whatever he has in his mind, and however smaller the issues, he can sort it out and then he can print them. So here it is free of design. That is something which 3D printing is a stronger point which you have. So with that note, so I hope everyone knows about 3D printing. I don't want to get into too much of that, into the 3D printing, what is 3D printing, all that stuff. So coming into the topic, today's topic of part screening and DFAM, or it's called design for additive manufacturing. So for this, what is the application that you need to have? For example, why do we need this? Basically, what is that part screening or the DFAM looks like? So it is basically you have a car. In the car, there are so many parts out there. So we need to know which are these parts will be good enough for additive manufacturing. Or some of there are so many parts in that. There are machine parts, there are casted parts, there are formed parts, there you have plastic parts, metal parts. There are so many things in that, rubber parts. So out of that, so many thousands of parts are in that. So how to identify what parts would be best suitable for the additive manufacturing? Okay, it's not only stops there. So you need to know what is the focus on that area to understand what is that parts that you need to bring in. Okay, so it is not that alone. So you have to also have to give some value addition to that. That means you need to understand what are the possibilities that it can have, and then how to improve them. So for example, you can improve in process, it can improve in assembly, you can improve the design. So there are so many things that you can improve. So all that has to be done. then you can given how this can be produced in the additive manufacturing. What is the process that is going to take inside the additive manufacturing? So this is what that you will be seeing today. More of it, like we'll be moving around within these three topics. So how to find a suitable application or a part that you wanted to have. So let us find out how it is. So when I just open my car and just bring all the parts out. So what are my challenges? Whether this part, first thing is, where is my portfolio is greater, or am I going in bigger thing, or am I doing the right thing? Then which applications should I focus? Whether should I go only on metal, or should I go only on polymer, or should I go on rubber? What is that I need to do? Or also on the casting side or on the machining side, that is the area. Then all that happens with a cost. Okay, so how much is going to cost me when I'm going to transform myself from a normal conventional method to additive manufacturing method? So this is how much is the cost, and the major question is, can AM reach quality levels? Because existing the conventional methods are there for decades now. So they have improved, they have fine-tuned, and they are giving the best tolerances. The quality issues are being resolved, and major thing they are getting the parts very at a high quality. Can additive manufacturers give that kind of a quality? So all these are the challenges that you are going to face. So how to implement or how to get that optimal results in that. So this is where we have something called as a part screening and a DFAM course, which is actually a 4-day program. But we are just to give you a snapshot of just we are doing this within 1 to 1.5 hours. So we have a program wherein we will have a set of people. We will bring in the parts. We will make sure that we'll explain the concept, and then we'll work with you, and then we will do. It's kind of a workshop. Basically, it is more of an interactive session. Okay, so to how this session or how this workshop will work. What is the major things that it will be covered on that? So here there are two questions in front of us. One was, what is the application that I have to use? Like, for example, metal or polymer, or what is that rubber material or casting? What is that? So that type application we have to find. The second question is, develop your application. That means how to improve, or what is the value add that I'm going to get from those parts which I have identified. Okay, so here there are steps that you can do, where it is a 3-step. It's called a 3-step process, which is the first step is basically the part screening. The second step is the DFAM, and then the final is the part printing of the part. So it's just 3 steps. You can get to know what is the final product that is going to come. So let us see. Let's take the first step, which is the part screening and selection process. So here in this, if you see that there are 2 more things which is still drilled down. You can say the technical fit and the economical fit. What is the technical fit? Okay, so we are going still 1 step further, and we are trying to see what is the part screening that we are going to, how to select a part. What is that we are going to do? Exactly, I have taken, for example, I've taken a steering wheel in my hand. So what am I going to do with that? So how to make sure that that particular steering wheel, is it a good part for additive manufacturing, or is it a good for conventional? So let us check for the technical side. So the technical side basically will have the major concept is size, then the material, then what is the quality it has to requirement for me to get to fit it into a car. So the size matters here. The reason being, first let us take the size. We'll take the reason being what is the evaluation economical fit? What is the evaluation criteria? So in the economical side, you have complexity, cost per part. So how much it's going to be costing for me, and then what is the value add that we are going to give into this part. So these are the 6 items that we will be talking about on the part screen. Okay, let us take the first one, which is called the technical fit. So in technical fit, there are three things, which is the size, material, and quality. Okay, here these are the three different machines which are available for the size. Okay, so wherein you can also have other bigger machines, but let us take what is the size. So the buildable size is here, wherein you can see it's a 200 by 250 by 330. So this is the size of this machine which you can build parts. Okay, so likewise this is a lighter, bigger one, and this is a much bigger, wherein you can do large parts up to about 700 mm. Okay, so in this one, 500 is basically a production one, so we will let us park it as it is now, as of now. But with these three things, what is the size the part is? So in a steering wheel is majorly about somewhere around, say, let us take a 300 mm diameter of a steering wheel. So it will best suit in this area, in this segment. So it can suit in this, but still you can get the part printed out in this machine. So size, so that means that part as a size as a criteria, it can be printed. Yes. So likewise, we can go into the metal side also. So again, in the metal, you can see that there are size constraints, which is about 250 by 250 by 300, and there are something called as a 400 cube. So this is the size that you need to know what the industry can produce and give it to you. Okay, then we came up with the materials also. What is there any difference between the polymer and metal? Yes, there are a lot of differences. Basically, you have this is polymer is basically a warm process, but metal is a cold process. Again, the laser type is totally different. This is a carbon dioxide laser. This is a fiber laser. So here the speed, the power is very low. This is about 70 watt laser. This is a 400 watt laser. So likewise, there is a lot of differentiations even in polymer and metal. So you have to take that also into account when you are selecting the machine. Then we'll just move to the next one, which is called the material requirement. So first we saw the size. Now we are seeing the material. So there are two ways. Again, I'm just showing you both polymer and metal because you can have very good comparison with polymer and metal, because I don't know what is the requirement, whether it's going to be a polymer or it's going to be a metal. So here, what are the materials that are available? So we need to know whether these materials are readily available or we have to develop them. Say, for example, if you have a titanium material and you are trying to do some kind of a space research work, and they need some composite which is on a titanium that they wanted separately. So in that case, it is not readily available on the shelf, but it has to be processed. But if you are going to go in for a normal titanium, then you can directly get it. So you can directly, so the material is available directly in-house. So likewise for the polymer, for example, normally we use a ABS material. Here we say that ABS is almost equivalent to it's called as polyamide, which is basically the same characteristics of an ABS material. So if you have any composites, then we also need to make sure that those composites are developed on that particular material. So if you see on the polymer side, there are so many materials which are available with EOS, which is currently available in the market. So if you take the nylon 12 material, the nylon 11 material, then you have the rubber materials. Then there are high temperature materials, which is the PEEK and the PEC material, which is called polyether ether ketone and polyether ketone ketone. So again, there is another material which is called as a prime cast, which is basically for casting applications. So similarly, so if that you can also see what kind of an application it is. It can also be given like prototypes, whether it is going to have an industry standard or is it going to be a fixture. So what is that it is going to? So these are the areas. If you are in a car, if you are going to have, for example, it's going to be something like basically a hand-holding device, like for example, your gear shift rod. and this is basically you have a polymer part on top of it. So this is something that you can design. So design of your, so the manufacturing of that can be directly on a PA material directly itself. You don't have to have a metal system there. You can go for a polymer. So this reduces the cost also. So likewise, you can also do for a PA11 material, which is basically has a different applications here. So in that case, you can say eyewear material or any electronic material where you have the electrical electronics casings, which is there, and you have also the consumer goods, which is basically your helmet industry. So this is where that you need to know what kind of material is going to help which kind of a an application there. So then on coming to the metal side, whether it is going to be the base metals like aluminum, stainless steel, maraging steel, so titanium, all these are the base materials which you have based on what kind of it's the applications, whether it's an automotive, airspace, then it is a general engineering and food sector, or tooling. You wanted to have a tooling or the injection mold size, because we do have a material basically for injection molding also. So likewise for titanium, it's basically for automotive and aerospace and medical also. There are certain cobalt chrome, which is basically for medical, and nickel alloys is again for high temperature where you have the turbine parts. So again, there are other materials which is called as the gold, silver, platinum. So these are some of the things which we are, which is materials which we have, but we don't use it much. So all this is materials which is in-house directly available on your table, you can use, or if you need to have something separate, then you have to develop them. So you have to check this also. So we saw the size, then we saw whether the materials are in-house, readily available, or we have to develop them. So the third criteria is the quality requirement. So the quality requirement is, what is the quality requirement? So we have properties. What are the properties that it needs? What is my elongation of break? All Young's modulus, all that. Then how the geometry should have, and the tolerance level. What is my tolerance? I can finish the part or the surface, the RA value of the surface. What should be? It should be a mirror finish, or it should be a rough, because basically when you have, for example, more injection mold, it should be like a mirror finish. But when you go for a medical, the rough finish should be there, because for osseointegration and likewise. So then you need to, whether it needs a certification, meaning in aerospace, if the part is flying, then there are stringent testing and certification needs to be done. For example, if you are also going in for medical implants, for example, your knee implant or a hip implant, they need basic standard implants. You need to have a certification from FTD. So so those areas you need to check whether it is required or not. So these are some of the properties basically. Like for different materials, you have a different mechanical properties. You have to check whether these things are suiting to your requirement. If it is not, then you have to make sure that you develop the process parameters for that material to make sure that it suffices that particular properties. Similarly, for plastic also, it's the same. So all the plastics which are available, which I showed, so it has the mechanical properties directly. Then comes the quality. So with all these mechanical properties, what is the quality I'm going to get? So here, what is the base? So the parts in metal has something called as, you can't just like that in your CNC machine or a lathe, where you just give a billet and then you just machine. You can't do that. So in additive manufacturing, the metal parts will have to be holded on the base plate with something called as supports, because it has a very high energy. For example, if you see titanium, it has about more than 1600 degrees centigrade. It melts at that temperature. So when it melts and when it cools down, there is a lot of stress developed. So when the stress is developing, what happens is the parts will try to come out or it will start distorting or bending. So to avoid that, we need to have some good support structures to hold them. Okay, so in polymer it is totally different. Polymer, you don't have support structures, so you can you can stack one over the other. So likewise, if you have the same setup, you can keep one more on the Z direction. So this is X and Y, and you can keep one layer again on a Z direction. Okay, so this is again, this stacking is not possible in the metal side, but in the polymer side it is possible. So that's why I just wanted to give you a reference here. So what is the maximum build height? That is, as I told you, the size that we had, and also again you have the base plate thickness. How much is it? If you are going to have a big part, that means too much of energy is going to pump in, too much of stress is going to develop inside the part, so which can deform the part. So you need to make sure that the base plate is thick enough to support the part and the support structure. So as I told you, that support structures for the metal, basically you can say wherever there is an overhang, you need the support to be built, because the part cannot hold because it is having a very high temperature. So the part will start to bend like this. So if you need to make sure that the part is as it is, then you need to create the support structure so that it holds the part in that position itself. So there's one more thing, which is something like you have to remove them. So once you do this part, you have to remove them. So this was the part which was done along with the support, and the supports has to be removed. So you can see that the supports are removed, but the internally you have this part. So after that, you need to post-process it. So what is that post-processing activity you need to know? So all that you have to, that also make sure that the quality is not compromised. So after removing all the support, what is the quality that I'm going to get, and how I am going to achieve that quality which is required by the industry. So that is something that we need to check. Then the part quality again also depends on the orientation. For example, if the part is has this kind, it has a different support structure. If the part is horizontal, then there is a different support structure. So what happens is, when you build this, you can see here there is a step defect, because it creates a layer by layer way of manufacturing. As you know, 3D printing is a layer by layer technology. So as you have, you can see that the layers are formed. So this should not form, because then again the surface is lost, the quality is lost. So I should make sure that the part orientation is in such a way, in such an angle, that I get a smooth part, a smooth surface finish, so that I don't enhance this RA value again. So part orientation also plays a major role. Then aspect ratio. This is also one more thing which is basically a very important one, where you have an aspect ratio. If you have a 1 meter, 1 mm dia, okay, of a rod, how high I can build is 8 mm. If you are going to build 16 mm, what happens is there is a heat dissipation cannot happen properly, and when the powder is spread, this pin can be pushed. So whenever there is a ratio of 8:1, so that means if you have a height, if you have a 2 mm dia, then you can go up to 16 mm. So likewise, that is the 8:1 ratio that you have to maintain. Then again on holes, if the holes are thicker, smaller, and the part is thick, then there will be some kind of an effect like this. You need to re-drill this hole again. Okay, so this is again a post-processing activity. So these are something, the quality issues which you have to take in mind when you are building the part, or when you are redesigning the part, or when you are selecting the part. So let us, now that we have done one on the technical fit, let us see what's there on the economical fit. Till now, any questions or anything? Are you guys following me? Because I know it's a bit new kind of a concept. Are you guys with me on the session? Like, or any questions?
Participants, if you have any query now, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can put it in the chat box.
Yeah, you can put it in the chat box also, not a problem. Like we can have it back. So no
No, sir.
question.
They don't have any
Okay, fine.
queries to ask.
Right. So let us go to the economic side, economic bit of the part. So there are three major things in the economic side. You have the complexity, cost per part, value add. So let us see the first complexity. So here the complexity is basically whether the complexity is a complexity is how to handle this complexity. Whether if you see the complexity is increasing in the design stage, you can see the conventional method is getting tougher. Okay, but in the other side, when the complexity is in the additive manufacturing, you can see that the cost per part is getting down. There is a volume here. So you have to have the complexity to be on a one single line. The more the complex the part, the more the advantage or the cost will be very less coming comparatively to the conventional method, because it has a it has like the complex. Say for example, for this pen to produce is very easy because there are a lot of operations are less. But for this one, it is not possible for a conventional method to be produced at all, because it has a lot of complication that it has to be done. So it is the complexity. This is what the complexity we are meaning. So it is a normal the complexity means the part cannot be manufactured through a conventional method. So it depends again the complexity. There are a lot of other things. The height of a complexity is this: a pen with this kind of a pen and this pen wherein this is impossible to produce with the conventional method. So here you have a geometric complexity or the manufacturing complexity. So in this complexity here, just to explain you, it's a six-sided here. So there are only six surfaces here. Okay, this is very simple. I can take a billet, I can just machine all the six surfaces, finish. But if I have holes, 54 holes here, that then means you can see that there are so many surfaces. You can see that it is so many, you have the complexity is moved from a low to a medium, because there are so many surfaces inside these small holes. Okay, then if I have a hollow cube, that means the cube is hollow. That means the surface is the ratio is very high. Surface to part ratio is very high. Then you can see the complexity is, it goes to a higher complexity. And if I have around more than 124 holes on this, so you can see here the 248, but this is a hollow one. It is a closed hollow. That means you are closing it, but still the surface to volume ratio is much higher when compared to a hollow, but it is a closed hollow. Inside it is closed. That means the complexity is very, very high. So this is called the geometrical complexity. Okay. So in another place, if you're taking about just to compare, so if you're in injection molding, you have so many. This is a manufacturing complexity. So the earlier one was this one was a geometric, and this is a manufacturing. So if you want to have an injection mold, what happens is you need to have the idea, then you need to create a prototype, then there is a mold, then there's a pilot series, then improve the mold based on the feedback from the pilot series, and then you go for a part production. But in this one, in additive manufacturing, you have an idea, you do a prototype, don't do a mold at all. Do a pilot series directly, because there is no need for you to create a mold and then do it, because it has a longer, it doesn't require this pilot series to create a mold, because this is a cost, very much cost involved here. Because for creating a mold, it's a huge cost. So then you go for a series, and then you get the improvement of the mold. So that is again and again there is going to be a cost involved. So, but here in additive manufacturing, you can just do a pilot series, then you go for the feedbacks, and then go for a series production. If it is a small few thousands, or if it's going in lakhs, then you can go for a mold. So this portion can come at this area. So there is a benefit. That means you can be in the market before well in advance when you're going for a normal conventional method comparatively to the additive manufacturing. This is the manufacturing complexity. So what we are talking. So again, there is again the geometry complexity and the manufacturing complexities are, it's been told. I don't want to go again on the same. So then we go for a cost per part. So that means there are different costs which are involved. For example, if for a design cost and pre-processing cost, then you have a production cost, basically the system, material, and the processes, what you need to have. Then post-processing, basically the part removal, powder, whatever is the raw material and all these stuff. So if you are taking in the, you have to take everything as a as into account to do the cost per part. So how you have to take the data preparation, then you have to take the part which is being produced, then the post processing, whatever it is, which is basically a heat treatment to improve your hardness, or if you want to improve the surface, then you have a quality. So all this comes into the cost per part calculation. So just give you an example. So this is a part that we have taken for doing a cost per part calculation. Okay. So the dimension is for roughly of this 100 by 10 by 45. Okay. So then the volume of this part is something, this one. So what we do is we just make sure that this one single volume is one, and the initial investment. So we need to make sure that the system cost, the service cost, what is the machine cost, the raw material, all that is into account. So how much we are trying to build, how many numbers can be built in one single go. That means you can build about 504 brackets of this kind can be built in one single process. That means if it is going for about, say, about 40 hours, in 40 hours you can get around 500 components. That means this one is a small batch production. So you can, if there is, say, about, I need, say, about 5,000 parts. So in another, say, for example, you can get this within a month build, you can get 5,000 parts, and you can go for the market, show to the, give it in the market, so that they can use it, give you a feedback. So this is something like a small batch production. So as I said, then we take the system cost alone. So like we had, like how we had taken what is the machine, the service, everything. So the machine cost comes this much. Then you also have to add the material cost. What is the material that I have to use? So how much is the material to build this particular part? That is the 500 number of pieces. Okay, so taking all that into account, how am I going to give a value add? So if I'm going to have, if I'm taking one part, say for example this part, I can redesign that like this, or maybe like this. If I have a sheet metal component, I can, this is an assembly, it's a sheet metal assembly. It's another part where you can have to, this is basically a sheet metal punch or a die, this one. So instead, we can directly design this one on this way. Or if I'm taking a part like this, I can have n number of designs like this. So my design thinking or my freedom is very high. So how do I bring it? So value, how do I need to give the value, or where do I need to bring in these value adds? So I need to bring the complexity here. Then I can bring in the weight. Okay, there I can get a value add. Then the functional integration. You can see that this is 100% plastic. As a one single part, it has been built. Then it can also be customized. That means, for example, a very good example is on the medical side, where you have a polio attacked people. So or a braces, or for example, you have this orthosis. For example, when you have a fracture of a hand, normally they use this POP, that bandage. So instead, you can go in for a plastic orthosis for that. So those are all customizable. So then you can also on the quality side, you can also have like lead time. That means which in the previous slides we were seeing how to reduce the lead time from a conventional method. Like then you can also bring down the steps. Say for example, manufacturing complexity, we were able to bring down the number of steps for the final part. Then you had assets like the production. Basically you can use it like a digital inventory, basically where you don't have to have a practical or a physical inventory. So if this part is required, you can have it in a digital form. Whenever there is a requirement, you can build it, print it, and then you can supply it to the customer. So that is something like the inventory side. So having all these, you can say that what is my value add I'm going to give. So if you're taking a normal additive manufacturing part, initially it will be very high. The initial investment is high. So you can see that if you're taking this as your zero, and if you're going to take, then the initial production cost in the additive manufacturing is going to be higher. Then how you are going to give that value add? By using a lightweight construction, then the assembly is coming down, the lead time coming down. So this is the value add that we can give. So how is it given? So let us see on the matrix. Let us see one example. So this is a scorecard. Whatever we had spoken earlier till now, we have to say whatever I spoke earlier now was the technical size, material, quality is here. Again on the economic side, complexity, cost, value add is on the other side. So this is called as a scorecard. You can change these things also possible. So let us take this, it's a joystick. Let us take a joystick as an example, and then see what is the technical fit. So this is a smaller part. It is a very small part. So it can be produced in the size in the machine what we saw. Then it is a ABS material. I told PA12 nylon 12 is equivalent to a nylon material. Okay, then the quality. How good is this quality? So we are able to achieve the smoothness and also the tolerances. Then it is biocompatible. The material what we have is a biocompatible material. The reason why it needs to be a biocompatible is because we will be holding it in our hand. So it should not irritate the skin when you are holding it for more than 6 hours or 7 hours. It should not irritate. So those quality information also can be captured on the certification. Then what is the additional thing that we are giving is, it is basically it's an injected molded part, but what we are giving is we can directly print this part. Okay, and this can also be printed in like how you do it in your injection molding. You can do the same way, where you can do it in 2 halves, and also the assembly can be done. So this is something like the technical fit. Okay, so now if you see the evaluation, this is at a higher level, meaning this is a very good part for our for as a additive manufacturing. Okay, let us take the economical side. So with the economical side, if you say the complexity, it is at for example, it is not at, it's at a medium level with the geometric, but manufacturing it is also at a medium level. Okay, not much, because it is a complex, it's not very complex part. So the cost, if you see, for 1,000 pieces per annum, the cost in an conventional method is 35 euros. But in additive manufacturing, you can say it is 10 euros more. Okay, but the cost what you are giving is more, but still, how we are going to give a value add here? What is that? So you can customize this. Basically, you can, normally what we do is we have a standard size, small, medium, large, but here you can customize it to the specific users. So you can use it, you can have kits, you can have those impression, and you can customize them. Then you can also have a toolless manufacturing. That means you don't need a mold at all. You can say you have 1,000 pieces, or say about 500 pieces. Then you can directly build in one or two builds. Then you can just supply it to the customer. So there is a toolless manufacturing. So you don't need a mold at all. Then you can also add textures. You can, it's not to be a smooth one. For example, you need to have a grippers here. So the grippers can be redesigned, and it can be different in, for say, for example, 5 lots can be of one design, The second 5 lot can be of a different design. But if you want to do this in conventional, you have to have 2 different molds. Okay, so here it is not like that. One build you can change the design, another one you can change the texture. So likewise, that is the value add that you are going to give. Here the tools, basically the addition, what is the information that is, it's a tool-less process. Basically there is no tool required. So that is the value add that we are giving. So what we do is, how this is going to, in which area it is going, it's a medium based evaluation. What we say, high, low, medium, it's in the medium. So let us take this and then put it into something called as a matrix. Okay, let us do a matrix in that where you have a low on the economic and the high on the economic side. Then if you see on the technical, you have a low, you have a high. Okay, what is this low? There you have the boxes. Okay, in this corner is nothing, is a corner where whatever the parts out of in your car, your whatever parts which is not possible in additive manufacturing, then put them here. Okay, here these 2 corners is also is possible technical, but economically it is not possible. So this will come here. But in the technically it is very poor, but economically it can go. So this is the low medium basically. And whatever you see on the orange is either it can be improved, improvised, and then it can be moved towards the good ones. Like for example, it is the blue ones are 100% possible through AM. Okay, this blue one. So you can move whichever parts falls on this area towards this something which is called as with the help of design for additive manufacturing. Okay, so how do we do? Let us take the same example of the thing like what in our earlier. So you can see that technically it is high and economically it is at medium. So our part is technically high, economically medium, it goes into this. So it comes to the economically medium. So the part lies somewhere here, but we wanted to move this part towards this place, which is 100%. That means economically also it is very good part, technically also it's very good part. So that is our aim. So that would be the next step. So likewise, you can have, say for example, from the car, you can pick one by one and you can place these parts in the matrix with this scorecard and see wherever this falls, where this is falling. Okay, so by this you can create a chart with your parts where which is feasible, which are not feasible, which can be moved to the feasible higher level so that that part can be a additive manufactured part. Okay, this is the first level. This is what we have learned. That means how to select a part from the from a car or any assembly. What part would go for the part for the additive manufacturing? Okay. So till now, any questions? Because we'll go for the next one. I know this subject is a bit dry, but still, I'm doing my best to make sure that I'm giving the good full information. Okay, if we don't have, so let us get into the design for additive manufacturing side. So I'm just taking one example, like because I don't want to take too many things. So let us take one satellite, full satellite. Okay, this is a big one. This is a very huge one, and see how we are going to do the part screening part. Okay, so let us see. Can I use this part screening in this? So let us see the on the part screening. So let us see the size. So this much big size I cannot do. Okay, I can't do this. So then what we do is then the material. what are the materials which are available in this? Let us see. So we have identified a few materials on these parts. Then what is the quality level it needs to have? So all after doing whatever we did in part screening, so we had identified two parts, two brackets. Okay, there are two brackets which is going to hold some equipments on the satellite. So let us take one example, maybe this example. This is the actual part, what it was printed, manufactured without additive manufacturing conventionally. Okay, let us see how this is going to change. So in the matrix, if you see, this is a very this is technically this could be at a medium, but economically it could be at a very low. Okay, so let us see how it can be done. So what happens, you have, this is the old design what we have, and then we use something called as a topology optimization, so that we reduce the weight of this, and also we have a lot of other options that this topology optimization can give you. So the weight reduction happens here. So once the changes happen on this, you need to definitely do an analysis on this, whether this part can hold that antenna or whatever which is being assembled on this. So the analysis is done, and then you do a redesigning on this. Okay, so this was the part, and so we have redesigned the component with like this. Okay, so what is the advantage that we are getting? We are going to give them improve like quality. That means it can hold much heavier part than what it should hold earlier. Okay, the major disadvantage here is because it is a sheet metal and it is a welding. And what happens if there is a issue, this welding comes out, then the welding cannot be done back, or the repair cannot be done back, because it is in space. You can't do that. So the whole part can collapse. So you need to make sure that the part quality is very good. So here that is to improve the stiffness, the quality over here. Then you also do the production time. So here there is a lot of assembly is done, lot of sheet metal is there, and lot of welding you need to do, and there are a lot of rivets that they have used. So all this is brought down. That means the production time is about 50% less. Okay, then the weight of the whole component. Here if you see it is a sheet metal, and here it's just the same material is aluminum, and then you can bring in the weight is 40%, it is lesser. So what happens is in space, if you want to carry 1 kg, if you are able to reduce 1 kilogram of weight by any ways, you can that has a ripple effect of burning your fuel. Then it can increase the payload of the satellite. Okay, they can add one more small 1 kg satellite, so that they can carry that also along with the they can carry it to the space. So this is very, very important, where the weight is a very, very high factor for them. So the weight reduction, 40% weight reduction, is a huge thing for them. So here we have just taken considered as a just considered what are the data preparation, what is the conventional and the additive manufacturing side. So how much is the cost which has been taken? So if you're going for additive manufacturing, the cost is about 3,100 euros to produce this part. Okay. So, but conventionally it is 1,300. But in additive manufacturing, you can see it is 3,000. So that's a huge difference of 1,800 euros. Okay. So how are we going to tell the customer or give that value add? So what here we reduce, as you see in my earlier slide, we reduce the cost by 50% by scrap rate, because there is no scrap at all. So it is all built, and the powder is also reused. So there is whenever you build conventionally, there is a scrap which comes up. So here there is no scrap. So from 50% to 5%, scrap rate. So you get this much amount as your benefit. Then we reduced a very good amount of weight, that means weight reduction, from 1.6 kgs to 940 grams. So that is somewhere down at 10,000 euros per kg. You are saving somewhere down 6,600 euros. That is, so you are able to get this value. So this amount is not that big. So you can see that the value add you have given here. So you can carry extra payload here, so which is more. So additional benefit is lead time and the stiffness. That means it can hold heavier part. So this is the additional value add that you are giving. So if you see cost wise alone, there is a difference. We are at a higher rate, but when you go for other areas like weight reduction, lead time reduction, you can make the part much stronger. So that is the value add you have to give. So when you are identifying a part, you also have to identify these aspects also and then do it. So this is the part exactly what it was built in the 3D printing, and this is what it was assembled in the satellite. Okay, so if you are now, let us do the same exercise for this arm also. So technically, it is the size is good, very good. Aluminum, it's a normal aluminum which is available. Then we are able to the quality. We are able to increase the stiffness. Then we are able to have a very good tolerance level, higher tolerance level, and the certification is not that high because it's not a functional part. It's just a bracket. So the certification is not very high, so it's only a medium. So the evaluation goes high. Okay, let us come to the economical side. The complexity is not that big. It is in a medium side, but the cost. So on a cost per part, it is basically the conventionally it's very low, but in additive manufacturing, it is thrice the 2 times the cost. But what value add we are giving? 40% weight reduction. So you are able to save so much of cost, which is already higher than the difference. And then the scrap rate is brought down, which is an additional cost saving there. And then you're going to real time. This is an additional cost saving because you can produce the part at a shorter time and give it for them for a testing. Okay, so here if you see that, that is also on a higher level. So in the matrix, so normally it was at this level. So what that means, it is an economic fit medium and a technical fit. But now this is 100%. It can go to a technically viable and economically also viable for this part to be a 100% part which can be produced for additive manufacturing. Okay, so likewise, I just thought I'll just show you another segment, which is basically for an Airbus. It's basically a hydraulic component. Most people must be knowing this manifold block, which is used in the hydraulics, basically for the front or the back movement, or the, for example, if you have your JCB, where the arm moves up, down, right, left, right, and all. So this is the manifold box similar to that. So actually internally, these holes are drilled like this. So you can see there are very irregularly it has been drilled. So where you can see here there is a 90-degree turnover. That means there is a few the pressure loss will be here at these areas. So you need to have a smooth turn. That means then only you will not have a pressure loss. So with the help of additive manufacturing, you can redesign the whole entire thing, something like this. That means you can have corners, very smooth corners, where so that the pressure loss is very minimal. Here the advantage here is you can go at a higher pressure and you don't need so much of power required for the operation of that particular movement. So finally, the part was printed like this. It is basically when you this part is a bracket basically used for when the plane lands. You can see that the flaps come out on the wings. So it is basically that hydraulic component is this one. So here, what was the advantage? Here there was the conventional. It was the functionality is identical, and the 10 parts, whatever they had, the 10 parts here was converted into one single component, and the weight was reduced by around 35%. So the certification was the certification requirement, because it's a Airbus, it is for an aerospace. The certification was much easier because it's one single part that it is going to go on for a operation. So similarly, I have one more. It's just a video. So you can, it is basically used for a Renault truck. So how they have implemented this part selection and additive and DFAM. That's a digital design for additive manufacturing. So we have taken a full engine, okay, and how to remove or how to identify the part and how to redesign the part. That is what this video would show you. So let us just take, he has identified one part. So it's an alternator bracket. So we have reduced the 18%. So then the next part comes in. So we have identified another one, another bracket. So you can see the redesigning of this. So this is a combination of part screening plus design for additive manufacturing. So the entire engine block. So here they have 80 parts integrated as one single block. So 80 parts is, there's no need for a assembly, sub-assembly line for that. So they have totally eliminated that. And here 45 parts. So there's another assembly which is being avoided. So it's all single component. It has become. So on a overall, if you see, you can they have reduced somewhere down 120 kgs has been reduced, and the number of reduced by 200 components. So what happens is, if you are able to reduce in a car for 120 kgs, is basically that the car can be much faster. So your fuel burning is lesser. So the carbon content that you are going to emit in the atmosphere is lesser. So it has a ripple effect. So when you're reducing the weight, so it has a fuel burning is less. By that, the carbon content or the carbon footprint is much lesser. So you can do this way. I request all the designers to have this in mind when you design new components, so that we have to leave a good world to the next generation. So this is one such thing which is very useful for us to give them the free hand, so that the design can happen very nicely. So with this one, I think here, if you are happening, like for example, additive manufacturing, basically, I just wanted to conclude like this. This is my last slide, telling that, okay, additive manufacturing is not a replacement for the conventional manufacturing. It is an enhancer, or additive manufacturing enhances the conventional method of manufacturing. Wherever the conventional method of manufacturing has difficulties, additive manufacturing can help to resolve those areas, so that the conventional manufacturing can enhance itself and give it on a better production level. So here, if you see the additive manufacturing, the more the complex, the more the freedom that the designer has to produce the parts. The additive manufacturing is very good. Okay, when you go for volumes also. So, but now there are technologies which are very much very advanced, and even in additive manufacturing, we have systems which can do for production level. That means 100,000 parts can be printed, like an injection mold. So similarly, so that the issue is, you don't need to go for molds at all. You can directly go for 1 lakh shots or 2 lakh shots can be done. You can prepare, you can produce them in additive manufacturing itself. So the technology is going in that direction. So with the freedom of design and freedom of production, the break even, which was earlier at a very initial stage, but now it can also go for a production and the conventional and the additive manufacturing technologies go hand in hand so that finally we get a better part and a better environment. With this, I thank VSSU and the AICTE for this opportunity. We can go for questions if you have.
Shit.
The participants, no doubt you are giving feedback as the session was great, informative, those things, but this is an opportunity. You can have some interaction with the expert pertaining to your research, academics. You can unmute yourself and you can ask if you have any queries. You can directly interact.
Aman, you are able to see me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. Because I'm not able to see myself here in the screen. Okay, if there are no questions, maybe, because I think I.
Yes, sir. I don't think there is any query from their side.
Yeah, if there are anything, maybe you can just email it.
Yes, they are asking for the email IDs. That will
I
be
will.
provided to you. I'll
Yeah.
provide the email IDs. You can have that.
So this is my email ID. So you can send information to me or to Mr. Santosh or to Mr. Tripti Rajan, so that he can contact me and we can interact. Not a problem.
Okay, participants, as we are not getting any queries from your side, I think should conclude here. Again, on behalf of the department, on behalf of the participants and my own behalf, I would like to thank Mr. Sudhakar Gingade for putting so much effort. And I was listening to this particular session. It was very much informative as well as what I can say. It is very much valuable. We could able to uh, learn few new things. I think this will be very much helpful to the people, those who are working in the domination of 3D printing and design. Along with Mr. Sudhakar, I would like to thank Mr. Santosh, CEO of EFIL Additive Private Limited. Thank you, Mr. Santosh Mangalnath, for being along with us during the entire session, as well as uh, helping us to have Mr. Sudhakar for this particular session. I thank you again.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Trupti.
Let
Pleasure is
us
ours.
conclude here.
Thank you very much. All the best. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you so much.
Participants, you can sign out now, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.